we started thinking about the Human Glycome project 6 years ago. And while brainstorming, we said maybe we need a Human Glycome project, something similar to the Human Genome Project, which started a couple of decades earlier. And some of you may remember the boat trip we had on this beautiful Caracas, the ancient Dubrovnik sailing ship. And then we met a year later, again in Dubrovnik. But in the meantime, we learned that also Rick Cummings was initiating the Human Glycome Project in the US. So we didn't call it the Human Glycome Project meeting, we called it the Human Glycome Project Initiative, so that we negotiate and merge the two projects into the one project, so we don't have the two Human Glycome projects. So this initiative met in May 2017 in parallel with the 12th General Glycobiology and Medicine Symposium. And then we managed to merge the projects. We created a single Human Glycome project, which officially had its first meeting again in Dubrovnik. So Dubrovnik is the birthplace of the Human Glycome project in October, together with a Glycome conference. So this was the first official, we have it even in the title of the program, the first Human Glycome project meeting. And at that point, we already had 33 individual projects, over 200 researchers joining forces to work together in the Human Glycome project. The second meeting, we changed location. We moved to Split, which is actually here we are again now. And some of you may also remember this nice boat trip and visit to the beautiful villa, which was a long time ago occupied by the former Yugoslav President Tito, so-called Tito's Villa, now Villa Dalmatia, which is one really beautiful spot on the Adriatic coast. And here we are again in Split for the third Human Glycome Project meeting. We had a pandemic break, unfortunately. We didn't meet for 3 years, but I hope we'll continue meeting regularly in the future. So one of the reasons why we are here is this guy, the Emperor Diocletian, who ruled the Roman Empire for 21 years, between the 3rd and at the beginning of the 4th century. And he's actually the only Roman emperor who decided to retire. So he said, 21 years of ruling, that's enough. I'm going to retire, enjoy the rest of my years. And he decided to build a palace in the most beautiful part of the empire, where, by the way, he was born, so maybe he was a little bit subjective. But he decided to build this magnificent palace, which you can actually still see in the aerial photo of Split. So these are the walls. Well, this is the position of the walls of the original palace. Of course, the houses were rebuilt, but you can still see 3 corners of the palace. The fourth one was removed when the city was opened. And people who live here claim this is the most beautiful city in the world. It is a beautiful city. It's a nice place to be. And especially, you see, some of you were swimming on the 2nd of November in the Adriatic coast, which is not completely usual, but this year it was possible. So in the next few days, we'll be talking about glycans. You all know why are glycans important, but we'll also put this and all other presentations for who of you agree on the internet, so I'll make a short introduction about why glycans are important for people who might be watching this later. And there is a simple thing which we all know and which other people should also know, and this is that the majority of proteins are glycosylated. So protein is the polypeptide part plus the glycan part. This guy revolving in the middle, this is the most famous protein at the planet at the moment as a glycoprotein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And all this hairy on the surface, these are the glycans. If we talk about the cell membrane, this is the lipid bilayer that we learned in school is the cell membrane. This thick black coating, this is the glycocalyx on the surface of a cell. So the real functional biological membrane of a cell is the glycocalyx. Lipid bilayer is just a small part of it. Unfortunately, many scientists still study proteins and ignoring the glycans. So the best analogy I can make is that if you do science on this poor little bird as a model bird, yes, you can do good science on that bird. You can study eyesight, you can study physiology, you can even study the walk of a bird. But you will never see the bird flying. Flight would be impossible to understand because bird without its feathers cannot fly. Protein without its glycans do not function normally, and this is the case for the majority of proteins, nearly all of them, which evolved after the appearance of multicellular life. So to understand biology, people have to look into glycans. Particularly when we talk about personalized medicine. Because we know today that up to 80% of all smart drugs, but also lifestyle interventions, are wasted because they're all based on idea of a standard human. And standard human does not exist. There is no standard human. We are all different. We respond differently to drugs. We respond differently to lifestyle interventions. And the healthcare is bankrupting our economy. So US is already paying 20%, and this was pre-pandemic, 20% of their GDP on healthcare. So how high can it go? Will people be willing to pay 80% of the GDP for healthcare? I think they never will. So we have to find a way to treat people smarter, to give them drugs to which they will respond, and for that we need biomarkers. And people are looking for biomarkers for decades, and we still don't have many clinically used biomarkers, and one of the reasons is that they are ignoring glycans. Because genes explain only up to a third of diseases, and majority is a lifestyle. Pandemic brought one good thing, and this is that glycines came into mainstream. Everybody was talking about the S-glycoprotein. Now they talk about the S protein only, but it was glycoprotein for a long time. And there was even the centerfold of the New York Times showing all the glycans on the S-glycoprotein. And I think the time is right for glycomics to come to the main stage. There are several important things which happened recently. So we have the new edition of the Essentials of Glycobiology, which, thank you for the sponsorship from Interven, is completely freely available to everybody. So ebook can be downloaded and anybody can read it. And this is really creating some traction. For example, when I tweeted about it, there was over 500 retweets and over 170,000 people watching the tweet. When I put it on LinkedIn, there was nearly 270,000 people. So only me sharing it reached close to 450,000 people. So with all of us as a community sharing, it reached much more. So I think people can now get essential information about glycosylation, at least from that book. Also, we got a Nobel Prize in the field, first time in something we can call glycobiology. Unfortunately, the word glyco is not mentioned in the official explanation, but Caroline is always talking only about glycans when she talks about this prize. And I think we can all be very grateful for her, not only for what she's doing scientifically, but also for promoting this field so well. And I think for us, all of us, it's now much simpler to explain why is this important. We just have to say, the Nobel Prize was awarded this year. Sabina did also great work. I saw you somewhere there. Thank you very much for this special issue of Chemical Reviews. Chemical Reviews is the most influential paper in chemistry. It has an impact factor of 72. And we have a special issue based on glycoscience. And it's also raising a significant traction. I haven't checked for all the papers, but our paper was already downloaded over 4,000 times. And it's the 36th most tweeted article in the history of chemical reviews. So glycans are starting to attract attention. And we are also moving from science into the real life. For example, our glycanage test is now leading navigator for the healthy aging. It has been featured in all major journals, including The Times, The Telegraph, several times in Forbes. It was nearly for a week the most read article in the Wall Street Journal, several times in the Daily Mail. So people are hearing about glycans. And the glycanage, from our perspective, is just the beginning. We are just launching meta-age, meno-age, cardio-age. They are being called age because age is not a regulated thing. Age is not a disease. So nobody is regulating whether you are testing some kind of biomarkers of aging. Thanks to Interven, Klaus, somewhere here, I saw him, I believe him. Yeah. So we as a field are entering diagnostics for real. So now they already have 2 fully validated, available glycan biomarkers which can be used in the clinics, several others in the pipeline. So we finally bridged that threshold of entering both the clinics and the everyday lifestyle use. A couple of days ago, we were also awarded the ERC Synergy Grant, coordinated by Tom. Tom will come here on Friday, but Manfred is here, Salome is here. I am the 4th PI, so for the next 6 years, we'll have this nice ERC Synergy Grant, which is one of the most prestigious European grants, which is also bringing the visibility to the field. So when we go back to the idea of the Human Glycome Project, our mission is very simple: to define structures, understand functions of human glycoconjugates. It's a short sentence, which I believe still is an equivalent of putting man to the Mars. So if the Human Genome Project, when it was conceived in the 80s, was like putting man on the moon, I think our challenge is to put man to the Mars. Way more difficult, impossible at the moment, but we are making progress and eventually we will achieve it. So this is more or less enough of me talking. Now it's time to move to the science and to the fun part of this meeting.